Everyone. Um, Thank you so much for joining us. It's so good to see everyone. If you're joining and you have a camera, we'd love to see your face, at least for now, but in a minute we're going to ask you to turn it back off. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Shannon Miller. I'm a board member of Power Preservation Foundation, and this is our second virtual POP on the Rocks happy hour. There's a whole calendar now for the year, so we're going to be doing it every other month all year long. So we hope that you will mark your calendars and join us every month. Thanks for that excitement, Ricky. I saw that. I appreciate the support. So we are very excited to give you all a tour tonight of the Kelso House, and we actually have a Kelso relative in the house tonight, someone who actually grew up in the house. So we're very excited to have you all here tonight joining us. I am yes, that was Sadie. She was saying hi. Jess just said hello to Sadie. And my husband Hugh, he's here with us tonight also. I wanted to tell everyone, I actually love it when you can see everybody on the screen because you can see faces, but when we're actually doing the program, it's probably better if you're on a desktop and you can go up to the top. I think it's the top, it should be like the top right of your screen. There's a pull down and it'll tell you which view you want. And if you select stage view, then that will bring up the person who's talking to the larger, so you'll be able to see it more easily instead of trying to squint. Especially when we're watching the videos later, you'll want to have it on that stage view so you can see. I believe Steph has also put instructions in the chat in case anyone is not very familiar with WebEx. You might be able to get some help there as well. One of my newfound COVID talents is virtual bartending. This is not the first time I've done this. I've never been a bartender in real life, but apparently this is one of my new callings. So I am going to be showing you how to make the Dark and Stormy tonight. This is not a drink that I order, so this is kind of new for me. So we will learn together. And the very first thing that I'm not going to do correctly is I'm not using highball glasses, primarily because I want to show off these amazing glasses that Jenny Hay gave me, and she has one just like it. It's very light, so in case you can't tell on the screen, it's a really cool shotgun house, sort of a party, and it says, make it a double, like a double shotgun. So I'm going to put ice. What? I'm going to put ice in the glasses.
For somebody else.
If you're,
this is it.
You might just double check and make sure that you all have your mute buttons pushed for the time being. Later on, we're going to invite everybody to join in the chat. But for now, it'll be better if everybody has their mute buttons pushed. So the Dark and Stormy actually is made of ginger beer, and it was historically made with like a specific kind of rum. I'm forgetting the name of the person. Somebody's rum. Gosling's Black Seal Dark Rum. And the reason it supposedly the name came from an old sailor who thought that the drink's kind of murky color was similar to like the color of storm clouds you can imagine being out on the sea. And so it's kind of tied to weather because, as a reminder, it's Groundhog Day. And so we wanted to kind of go with that theme. But it also is really just tied to kind of that seafaring tradition. And apparently Gosling was on this ship, and eventually they made it to Bermuda, which, as you know, a lot of people don't. Like, apparently there are over 300 identified vessels that are on the bottom of the ocean around that area because of like coral reefs and all these kinds of things. And so very dangerous. To me, and I'm going to date myself here because what Dark and Stormy makes me think of, do you all remember Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure? So when I was a kid, Pee-wee's Big Adventure was really popular, and Pee-wee's Playhouse on Saturday morning, and my best friend and I watched it religiously. And so she just recently gave me a whole collection of Pee Wee Herman bumper stickers. Who knew that this would come in handy at Pop on the Rocks? I also have this one, just a little side note. I know you are, but what am I? Remember that? Okay, so back to the drink. So I've already juiced everything, so it would be ready to go. And I already have ice in my cocktail shakers. Everyone can hear me okay, right? Are we good? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Okay. So I already have ice in the cocktail shaker, and I'm making a drink for Hugh and me, so I'm going to double the recipe. Can you go grab the ginger beer? Hugh's going to get the ginger beer. I almost forgot that part. Okay, so I already have ice. See, we have ice here. And then I'm going to put 2 ounces of the rum. So I have this nice rum. Those of you that got the cocktail kit, you can follow along if you haven't already made your drinks. This is a very handy dandy little thing. It's 1.5 ounces. So I'm going to do 2 of those. Well, I'm going to do more than 2 of those. Oh no, I just messed up. I'm pouring in a cocktail shaker. 1.5, and then another little bit since I messed up. Okay, so there's the rum. And then I'm going to add lime juice. So it calls for 1/2 ounce of lime juice. So I'm going to put about that because Hugh is going to get mad at me if I put too much lime juice. So I'm going to be a little light-handed on the lime juice, but feel free to put more. So I'm just going to put a little bit of lime juice. And then I'm going to shake it up in my penguin cocktail shaker. I love penguins, in case anyone didn't know. I'm going to shake it up. And then I'm going to pour it into the glasses. Okay. And then I'm going to add 3 ounces of ginger beer to each one, approximately. And then for those of you that saw the if you want the twist of blood orange, I said a big yes to the blood orange. I love blood orange and any orange really. And so I am going to add these very pretty wheels of blood orange along with the juice, like little bit of juice. Uh-oh. Blood orange juice makes a mess, so be careful. All right. Cute. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, we're stirring it up. Okay, everyone. Let's have our first toast. That's not bad. I did all right for my first time making a dark and stormy, I think. Large Marge would be proud. Okay, so cheers, everyone. I'm going to pass off the mic to Jenny Hay now, who is another board member of PoP. We're going to mute so Sadie will stop barking.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. And I am going to adjust so that y'all who are using the stage layout will get to see me, and then we'll shift over in just a second to my colleague Steph. So hi, everybody. It's really great to see all of you tonight. I'm Jenny Hay. I'm a board member with the Power Preservation Foundation, and we're really excited that you've joined us for the second virtual Pop on the Rocks. We are taking you inside the Kelso House tonight, which is a grand residence constructed in 1906 that's located inside of San Antonio's Monte Vista Historic District. But before we jump into our program, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about PoP. The Power Preservation Foundation, or PoP as we call it, was founded in 2012. It's a coalition of advocates, businesses, neighborhoods, and agencies that are interested in promoting the literal power of preservation in our community. The proceeds that we raise support hands-on preservation programs mostly hosted by the Office of Historic Preservation, including Rehabber Club workshops, the STAR program, which is an acronym for Students Together Achieving Revitalization, Rehabberama, and most recently, some construction science courses with the University of Texas at San Antonio. In 2018, so just a few years ago, PoP acquired the Kelso House, which is again the site of tonight's tour, via a very generous donation. And since then, the house has served as the site of our very first learning lab, which you'll learn about during tonight's tour. Also, since our founding, since 2012, we've hosted our signature fundraising event, the Power of Preservation Promenade. Every year, we've hosted prom in a vacant or underutilized structure that highlights its potential for a number of different uses. Obviously, a big party is our favorite. Because of the COVID pandemic, prom 2020 was canceled, and our fundraising efforts have shifted pretty substantially. We have really high hopes for prom 2021. But for right now, we are so excited to showcase these amazing spaces using this Pop on the Rocks program as a sort of a framework. So every dollar we raise supports the Kelso House Learning Lab, which we're excited to showcase tonight. And I want to give a really enormous thank you to tonight's donors who are enjoying specialty cocktails, many of you. We really appreciate your support. Thanks to you, we raised $1,305 tonight for the Kelso House Learning Lab. So round of applause. Thank you all so very much. Every dollar helps, and that's a lot of dollars. So really thank you for your support. I also want to introduce you to the rest of the Pop on the Rocks Planning Committee. So a special thanks to our colleagues, Rachel Ritaliata, Hui Pham, and Derek Tulowitzki. They're all there. Wave, everybody. For your amazing work this evening and in preparation for this event. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie Phillips, who's also a board member for PoP, who's going to share a really exciting update about the Kelso House.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everyone. As Jenny mentioned, I'm Stephanie Phillips, board member with PoP. So excited to see both new and familiar faces joining tonight. Your support means so much, and I want to give a special shout out to my grad school roommate who is joining us from Tacoma, Washington, and my parents who are back again from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we're coming from everywhere. Thank you, guys. So your support means so much, each and every one of you. And before we jump into our tour, we do have an exciting announcement regarding the Kelso House. So one more reminder before I share this, that we recommend changing your screen if you haven't already to stage view. This option should be in your upper right-hand corner if you're on a desktop, and then check the chat for instructions. That way you'll see a big screen on your screen instead of all of the tiles. So one of PoP's major goals with the restoration of the Kelso House is to utilize it as a case study for integrating climate action and reuse principles into preservation. So in late 2020, last year, PoP, along with the City of San Antonio Office of Historic Preservation, entered into a partnership with local architecture firm Lake Flato. Lake Flato is an internationally recognized firm known for their place-based and sustainability-focused design work. And we are so grateful that they call San Antonio home. They are an amazing firm. This partnership will allow the Kelso House, which we'll learn about in just a second, to acquire zero net carbon certification from the International Living Futures Institute, which is huge. So I'm going to share a video created by the City of San Antonio's Office of Sustainability to share more about this partnership. And as Shannon mentioned, we were going to prompt you to turn off your cameras at some point. So now is that point. To ensure that the live stream runs smoothly, just turn off your camera for now. We'll turn them back on after the tour. And as you watch the videos tonight, we definitely encourage you to drop any questions in the chat as you watch. So here we go.
Hello, I'm District 3 Councilwoman Rebecca Villagrán. As representative for one of the most culturally rich districts in San Antonio, I am pleased that the SA Climate Ready Climate Action and Adaptation Plan recognizes the importance of cultural heritage for our community's resilience. That's what makes San Antonio unique from other large cities in the United States. We celebrate our shared historic assets, like the Alamo or the San Antonio Missions National Historical Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the first in Texas. As San Antonio enters into its 4th century of existence, we have an opportunity to really highlight the strength of our city, and it comes from the diversity of our residents, and that we can face these challenges head on when we work together. We also support legacy businesses that are a part of the fabric of our neighborhoods and help emerging construction science engineers and design students learn the ways to keep our historic structures intact and relevant for future generations. In our climate plan, as we implement strategies to make San Antonio viable to ever-increasing heat and storm events, we will be asking the following. Does this strategy acknowledge, honor, respect the traditions, culture of our communities of color? Does this negatively impact the existing cultural structure? Or does this increase social cohesion in the community? Thank you so much for joining us in this SA Climate Ready Forum and learning all about our plan and what it means. That there are so many more important ways that we can highlight items here in San Antonio, like enhancing San Antonio's cultural heritage and treasured historical assets.
Okay, stand by everyone. I'm going to optimize sharing for motion and video, so it should get way better. Here we go.
Thank you for joining.
Hi, I'm Shannon Miller. I'm the director at the City of San Antonio's Office of Historic Preservation. We're here at the Kelso House, located in Monte Vista Historic District. The house is currently owned by a local nonprofit, the Power of Preservation Foundation, or PoP. We partner with PoP to utilize this home, which stood vacant for nearly 20 years, as a hands-on learning lab for trades education. We're excited to share our bold, sustainable vision for this beautiful home. Let's start from the beginning.
The Kelso House is located in the Monte Vista Historic District at the corner of West Craig Place and Main Avenue. Monte Vista was designated as a historic district 45 years ago. Originally, this area was what we call a streetcar suburb. The streetcar line actually traveled along West Craig and turned south on Main right here at this corner until about 1930. The Kelso House was designed by Atlee B Ayres and built in 1906. Ayres designed many homes, including his own, which is located just a few blocks to the southwest. His firm designed other very significant structures in San Antonio, including the Tower Life Building, the Administration Building at Randolph Air Force Base, and the original Municipal Auditorium, which is now the Tobin Center. The home was built for Judge Winchester Kelso, who was the youngest judge appointed in Texas in 1886 when he was just 28 years old. He also served as school board president in San Antonio later. Mrs. May Joyce Kelso served as president of the Battle of Flowers Association in 1918. She was locally known as a leader in social and club life. Their son and grandson both attended the University of Texas at Austin, and between the two of them served in World War I, World War II, the Korean and Vietnam conflicts. Judge Kelso built the home next door as well, which is now La Fonda on Main, for his son and daughter-in-law. The family owned and lived in the Kelso House until 1954.
Since acquiring the Kelso House through a generous donation in 2018, the Power of Preservation Foundation has collaborated with the Office of Historic Preservation, the UTSA College of Architecture, Construction and Planning, San Antonio College, trades experts, contractors, and the community to expand trades knowledge in San Antonio. To date, we've held multiple wood window workshops open to contractors and community members alike that restored several of the Kelso House's double-hung windows. We've also hosted 4 semesters of the UTSA construction science students, covering topics such as bidding, window repair, porch repair, and documentation. With these initiatives and partnerships, the Kelso House has become a local learning lab for building maintenance and preservation. Climate change presents an enormous challenge, not only environmentally, but also when considering the preservation of San Antonio's tangible and intangible heritage. Heritage anchors social memory and cohesion, informs community identity, and instills a sense of place. This is essential in sustaining inherent resilience. As a founding member of the International Climate Heritage Network, the Office of Historic Preservation is committed to sustainable practices that promote climate action. The presence of this next generation of craftspeople trained via Learning Lab programming will provide homeowners with an affordable alternative to demolition while working to perpetuate the local living heritage represented in the building trades and techniques. We envision that the Kelso House will be the first of several learning labs created throughout the city to serve multiple neighborhoods, ultimately establishing a formal Living Heritage Trades Academy and a model that promotes preservation with a service and sustainability mindset. The restored house will be a testament to hands-on learning and sustainable building practices. Additionally, reuse and adaptation of historic and existing buildings must be part of our strategy for achieving carbon reduction targets. The presence of existing materials and embodied carbon is important, and reuse contributes to waste reduction and circular economy goals. In historic buildings like the Kelso House, the high value of old-growth wood is especially important to keep from the landfill. The waste that goes to the landfill today continues to release greenhouse gas emissions for decades as it breaks down. In recognition of these emissions, San Antonio has identified measures that reduce consumption, minimize waste, and encourage material reuse. Together, these strategies will work to reduce the greenhouse gases emitted by the waste stream and landfills. To date, an investment value of more than $250,000 has gone into the stabilization of the Kelso House. The Power of Preservation Foundation is working to secure other funding sources to continue the rehabilitation of this historic landmark. Building on the Learning Lab, we are excited to announce that OHP has partnered with local architecture firm Lake Flato to use the restoration of the Kelso House as a model for applying net zero and carbon certifications to older residential structures. Here's Heather Holdridge with more on this exciting project.
Hi, I'm Heather Gale Holdridge, Sustainability Director at Lake Flato Architects. Lake Flato is a committed partner of the Public Architecture's One Plus program, a national movement in partnership with the AIA that coordinates and advocates for pro bono architectural efforts in the public interest. As a committed One Plus firm, we fulfill a yearly pledge to contribute 1% of our design staff's total project hours toward pro bono design work focused on nonprofit clients working for the public good. As part of our partnership with OHP, we will be seeking zero carbon certification from the International Living Future Institute for the Kelso House, as well as local certification from Build San Antonio Green. With low carbon material selection and zero carbon certification, documentation, and management, we will develop an inherently sustainable solution that demonstrates the connection between adaptive reuse, historic preservation, and environmental performance. We see this project as a pioneering international case study on how to apply rigorous and aspirational net zero goals to historic structures at the residential scale.
Okay. Thank you again to Lake Flato for the amazing partnership. We're super excited about that carbon neutral certification. Next, we filmed a tour of the Kelso House for you. For those of you that joined us last time, it's a little tricky doing it live. Plus, it's dark inside the Kelso House at this time of night. No electricity yet, and so it just made more sense to record it ahead of time. But we definitely wanted it to still have a live tour feel. So please don't judge us for it being a little less than polished. We wanted it to remain informal and fun. As a reminder, if you haven't already, if you'll just keep your cameras off during the tour, it helps with the internet capacity. And then once the tour is over, we'll ask you to turn your cameras back on. And we are definitely following the chat. So if you have any questions along the way, please put them in the chat and we'll either answer them there or we'll talk about them at the end when we'll have a live opportunity for questions and answers and then just general conversation. Let's have one more toast to the Kelso House. Cheers. And let's watch the video. Everyone, it's Shannon. I'm so excited that you joined us tonight for Pop on the Rocks tour of the Kelso House. And we, of course, are going to be having some conversation live, but we wanted to film some of the tour in daylight so you could see the Kelso House in all of her beauty. And we especially are excited about starting out front here because it really showcases the best part of what's happened so far at the Kelso House. For those of you that are familiar with it and its history, you know that for many years the porch looks like it might just fall right off. And in fact, there were attempts to fix the porch foundation, and a lot of people shied away and got scared. When we called Guido, Cosmo was like, absolutely, we'll do it. And then Tom Guido was like, I don't know about this. Are you crazy? So even the Guidos had to be a little bit convinced, but they of course figured it out. And so the porch is now completely stable. We've worked to restore the shingles, the stairs, the porch floor, the porch decking. We'll walk up on the porch and show that to you. And then you'll see as we walk through the tour that we're also working to restore the second floor porch, which has been generously sponsored by the Van Steenberg family. So we're very excited about that. And you can see that there is work happening. There's lumber and things like that. We'll also talk a little bit, Steph is here and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the classes that we've done on site. The Kelso House is a learning lab, which is an important part of our mission and what we're trying to accomplish here on site. And so we've done several window workshops, both with people in the community that are interested in learning the skill and with classes at the UTSA College of Architecture, Construction, and Planning. I always have to think about that. We've worked on the lovely windows. Of course,
Totally see because they're being protected by plywood currently, but Steph's going to demonstrate.
Hold on, everyone. I shared the wrong thing. We're going to do it right this time. Don't worry.
of course you can't totally see because they're being protected by plywood currently, but Steph's going to demonstrate a little bit later some of the work that's been done on the windows. Steph, join me.
Hey everyone, very smooth intro. I'm Stephanie Phillips, board member at Power Preservation Foundation. And why don't I take you over right here to show you kind of the fruits of our workshops that Shannon was just mentioning. Remove this door here. So this is one of the windows that was restored as part of a wood window workshop that we held, I think, in 2019. So those classes, I think, are one of my favorite things that we do here at the Kelso House because they are open to both experienced contractors, budding contractors, as well as homeowners, novices that are just thinking about acquiring different skill sets. So these windows were in some dire condition, I would say. But as part of that workshop, they were completely removed from their opening. Some of the panes of glass were broken. These are all individual panes of glass. So they were removed, and then we cut new rectangles, put them in, and our participants put in this new glazing bead, and they look great. So we had about 30 people at that workshop, so they're all part of this story now, which is very exciting. And just to prove that they were very exciting. So we're so glad that even the transoms, you can kind of see the numbering up there as some evidence of making sure that all the glass pieces went where they're supposed to go. So these are a testament to the effectiveness of those workshops. And for those of you that are watching that may live in a historic house, maybe even in Mona Vista, or are wondering kind of why we wanted to host window workshops here, I think one of the best things about participating, even if you're not someone that's planning on being a contractor, is that you're able to kind of learn the terminology and see how these windows actually go together, which empowers people to be able to have those conversations with their contractors and know what to look for, know how to read a wood restoration bid, which is just as important, we think, as part of homeownership. So we're eager to host more classes here in the future whenever we're able to, so we hope you'll join us.
Yes, in fact, we have a grant that that will help us to host a workshop on how to kind of restore the shingle siding, like you see down here. But there are parts of the actual it's not just on the porch. There are other sections of the siding on the Kelso House that have that shingle application, and so once it's safe to do so, we'll be welcoming people here to learn how to do that restoration as well.
And speaking of the porch, I would say that the porch has been kind of the extent of the amazing work that has been done thus far, and we want to constantly do a shout out to Guido for their amazing work. But right here, actually, we have one of the original capitals, I think, of one of the columns that was on the porch. So you can see all of the different layers, all of the different kind of details, especially here on this rounded capital piece. You can see just like how much craftsmanship went into this house when it was constructed in 1906. So something that Guido did as part of the porch restoration is they, measured meticulously all of these details of the capitals, and they're faithfully recreating them as they start continuing to restore the capitals here on the Kelso House. You can kind of see some of the new ones that have gone in up top, and we're just really grateful that we had some original ones that were still here to faithfully replicate as part of the porch restoration. And earlier Shannon had mentioned the beautiful beadboard that's at the top of the porch here. This turned out so amazing. There used to be, I think, several holes in the ceiling when the Kelso House was acquired.
And the decking too. Mm-hmm. It looks so amazing. Obviously it's been kind of primed now, so it's not as lovely as it's going to be eventually when it's all clean and painted, but such excellent work that Guido was able to do to help us with this porch restoration.
Right.
And then one of the other things, several of these other windows that you're seeing here on the first level were completed as part of one of the classes with the construction science students at UTSA College of Architecture, Construction and Planning, which has also been a really exciting partnership for us because it's a great way for the students in construction science to get that hands-on experience. Not only do they actually see how the materials function and how the windows operate, but they go through the process of pitching the story of pitching their project to the owners, which is PoP. They learn about bids, they learn about costing for projects, they learn about going down to the city and pulling permits, and so it's a great way for those construction science students to really understand what it's going to be like in the field when they get onto a job site.
Yeah, and unfortunately this window is locked, which it should be, but we're just going to show the detail here. This entire single sash actually opens up. You can lift it up like a normal 1/1 window, so you can just kind of see the scale and detailing, how that's inset from the front plane. Just the amazing detail work that's part of this stunning house that PoP is faithfully recreating. So very cool stuff.
It would probably be good to mention too that we were able to do all of this because the house was actually donated to us by Cappy and Susie Lawton, who of course are the owners of La Fonda next door. And so PoP took over this property in 2018, and we have 3 years to complete the exterior restoration, and so 2021 is our time. We have to be done with the exterior by October, so a lot is going to happen and change at this property this year. Guido is in the process of kind of mobilizing to do the roof in the next few weeks. There are several layers of roofing. There are some issues with the roof structure itself, and so they'll be working with a structural engineer to make sure that we address those issues, and then we'll be getting a new roof, and after that it'll be smooth sailing.
Yes.
I hope. Okay. So one of the things that
we had to do when we acquired the Kelso House is there, for those of you that were familiar with the project, there used to be an addition here, like kind of where that blue tarp is and that wood is stacked, and it went around the corner. And so we had to first have that addition taken off, and it was a later addition, so there were no concerns from a design review standpoint about removing that addition. And that's why you see this one section that does not have siding. So eventually we'll be able to replicate this section of the siding that has the shingles siding, and that's where we'll be able to apply that grant that we received to teach people how to do that application. One of the other things that, obviously this door was added at some point, and so we'll be converting that middle door back into a window that's like the two on either side. So the window with the divided light transom above it. One of the other things that the students, one of the classes at UTSA, we let the students, typically the students get into groups of 3 or 4, and then they select a project and propose it to us. And I think we've approved all of them. They always come up with good suggestions. But one of the projects was to replicate this little, whatever you call this, I don't know, whatever this detail is, like kind of replicate this thing that goes all the way around the base of the structure. And so there are pieces of that that have been constructed by the students that will ultimately go all the way around. One of the challenges of a vacant building, obviously, is just the constant kind of issues with things that go wrong or things that come loose. This has been covered up many times, and you know, it's like houses like to be lived in or used and loved, and historic buildings in general, and so we're anxious to get the exterior kind of buttoned up so that we can tackle the interior and ultimately get somebody into this building that can appreciate it and love it again. So one of the other things that the students worked on, you see this cute little window over here that has the little, what is that called? Little thing over it? I don't know, kind of a, whatever that is. There was another one. So that's actually, that little feature there with the 2 windows and it kind of sticks out a little bit will be replicated over here. And then one of the other things that we, of course, have to take into account that wasn't an issue when it was a residential house is ADA accessibility. So we actually only own about, well, exactly 5 feet out from the footprint of the house. So most of what you see here when you come to eat at La Fonda does not belong to PoP. The parking lot is not ours. So we own just basically the footprint of the house and just enough to have our access. And then a parking space in the front. So we actually will have a ADA accessibility ramp that goes out this back door all the way out to the sidewalk. And so that's how accessibility will happen at the site once it's ready to be occupied. So you'll see that there's a lot of stuff in here. One of the ways that we are bringing in a little bit of money every month is that CAPI continues to utilize the interior of the building for a little bit of storage for the restaurant in La Fonda. They are going to be moving out fairly soon because, as I mentioned, once we finish with the exterior, we'll turn our attention to the interior, and so we'll have to have an empty place so we have room to work. But it is really fortunate that we have a lot of the details. We have the coffered ceilings, and a lot of the millwork on the first floor is in place. We're lucky to have the windows to be able to restore them. You see fireplaces and even some of the features of the staircase are still evident. I mean, obviously the railings are missing, but you can see the kind of inlaid detail in the wood floors and some of the really
beautiful features. I wish I could have visited this house before someone decided to start dismantling it.
Yeah, and something that we're really excited about in the coming year, in addition to finishing the exterior of the Kelso House, is we have several partnerships. Like, this is a group joint effort of so many different partners in our community, and we're really eager to welcome a new group of participants from the UT Austin School of Architecture as part of their materials conservation coursework and their Master of Science of Historic Preservation graduate program. Some students will be coming here to take some samples of the wood that's in the house, the paint that's here, some of the stucco that you saw on the exterior of the chimneys, to be able to tell us exactly what those materials are and to kind of help us put together the story of the changes as well as the original materials that were part of the construction of the Kelso House, which I think will be such an exciting opportunity for us to document that information and kind of tell that whole story. So thank you, UT students, for helping us with that. And another partnership that we mentioned earlier in this presentation is through our local architecture firm here, Lake Flato. So something that we're so excited about is that we are on track for the Kelso House to be the first zero net carbon certified residential structure here in San Antonio, which that's a lot of words, but it's really cool and it's really important. And it's part of our broader effort to kind of imbue climate-wise principles into the preservation process. And part of that as well is you see all of these original materials that Shannon mentioned that we're so fortunate to still have here in the property. As part of the work that they're going to be doing, they're going to be taking an inventory of all of these existing materials that are still here. And through kind of that puzzle piece story that will come from the materials analysis with the UT students, is we'll be able to start figuring out where some of these materials would have originated from and kind of start telling the story of the embodied carbon that's in this building. And when we say embodied carbon, we're talking about all of the energy that it took when the structure was originally built in 1906. So where all of the material or all of the wood was taken from, which forest they came from, the railways that were used to distribute those materials here. And all of that is really important to consider in the broader conversation about sustainability. If you're living in a historic house right now, you're already being a huge environmental advocate because you're already living in a space that exists. You're not taking down more trees, you're not mining the earth for more materials. So we're so excited for the Kelso House to be kind of this really amazing example of how we talk about that in the context of residential spaces. So stay tuned for more.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Steph is saying too, it's so important to us to showcase as an example of what can be done. You know, we know, like, from the perspective, from wearing my hat as the historic preservation officer, you know, a lot of times people come in through the office and they're asking to do things, and we tell them yes or we tell them no, and sometimes people want replacement windows and we say no replacement windows, or whatever it is that that we're trying to maintain that is original, the original siding, the original porch decking, all those types of things that we've talked about. There's an added benefit to that, and it is really that the value of the materials themselves, both the quality of the material, because oftentimes they're old growth wood, they're stronger, they've lasted 100 years, why can't they last 100 more? I mean, all of those kinds of arguments, but it also is just such an important element of thinking about that embodied energy that's already exists in the building. And, you know, so many things that we're tackling as a society, climate issues, affordable housing issues, none of those things we're never going to win on those topics if we don't deal with our existing buildings and reinvest in them and reuse them in a way that is respectful of the investment that's already been made.
Agreed.
Yay. Should we go upstairs?
Yeah, let's head upstairs.
I love all this. Like, it's so beautiful, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's crazy that somebody was like, yeah, I don't think I want to live here anymore.
Go.
Okay, so should we go upstairs? Let's go. This is the windows that we saw from the exterior that we mentioned. This door obviously will go away. We don't need to walk out to the air. And the upstairs you'll see has very little that remains in terms of the interior, like finishes or anything like that. A lot of that has been taken out from upstairs. But it does enable you to see some of how it's been constructed. You see the boards, you definitely see the roof structure, the rafters. So it's kind of interesting from that perspective. It's so awesome. I've actually never been out here before since it's been fixed. I'm so excited. Like, how amazing is this? Drew, I can't wait for you to see it. You gotta come. It's such a cool perspective from up here because you can see all the details, the little design elements of the rafter tails. And this makes my heart happy. You can also see there's the beginnings of a railing over here. This is actually just a mock-up to kind of get scale. We do have some historic photos that we will show you, and there's a bit more detail to the railing design. So ultimately, we'll be working with Guido to make sure that we get that detail as close as possible to the historic photos. And we actually are hoping, I mean, pandemic, not, hopefully someday goes away. The idea is that we can potentially utilize the porch railing recreation as another training opportunity for people here at the Kelso House Learning Lab. Oh, another thing while I'm up here, like, we've mentioned this a time or two, but it really is important and bears repeating to thank Guido for all the work that they've done. Cosmo in particular has really been our champion, but his brother Chris has helped a lot. Marianne and Tom have been wonderful friends to PoP. It's amazing how much work they've done and how much of that work was donated. Of course, we've paid, but we definitely have not paid what they could have charged us. And so thank you to the Guidos.
We can't state that enough. While we're up here, I just want to give everyone just a sense of the scale of these columns. I don't think I personally have been up here because the porch was in such dire need of restoration, but I mean, these are huge. I'm 5'2" for scale. So we were talking about those original column capitals on the first floor. I mean, these are like probably double the size in scale. So these are just enormously impressive in terms of the craftsmanship. And this is the first time I think that I've seen an original wood window screen.
Me too.
You're seeing this live, a discovery that we didn't know was here. Likely that all of the windows on this house featured a screen like this. And just the proportion of these windows are very unique. They're very skinny and very tall. So the detail here is also very exciting. Just another thing for us to recreate.
Absolutely. In a training course, we'll
Yes.
teach everyone how to make their own window screens.
Yeah, very
Stay tuned. Yeah, I'm absolutely amazed by this. Like, it's so exciting.
We talk about transoms a lot, but I really like that this one is kind of in its open stage. So this house was constructed in 1906 before the advent of air conditioning. So a lot of times you'll see in houses of this age transoms, which are operational windows to actually promote the flow of air during when it's too hot or too cold. So you'll see this peppered throughout houses of this age, and I love that this one is here, and it's very likely that they were inside the house as well. So another fun detail about historic structures, they cooled themselves. So this is probably one of my favorite rooms in the house. One of the main reasons being is that this was also a site for one of our wood window workshops. The window over there that Shannon is closing used to be very smoothly.
used to be painted shut, and as part of our wood window workshops, we were able to make that fully functional again. So it's very exciting. And then one thing that I really love about this room as well is that you can see the backside of the beautiful shingles that are on the exterior of the home. So we have no reason to believe that all of this isn't original. So you can see how this house was put together, as Shannon mentioned earlier. And I don't know, I think it's very rare for people to be able to see kind of wood shingles from the opposite end. So it's kind of a unexpected benefit of being able to see what's behind these walls. So
it's such a great point. Like, in a way, it was, you know, it's sad when you first walk in and a lot of the interior of the upstairs especially is not here anymore. But then it also provides opportunities like Steph just described, which is kind of cool. Like, downstairs we have a lot of the original kind of finishes in place, or at least we know enough about them to be able to recreate them. And upstairs, it's a little bit more of a blank slate, but we get cool lessons like this and you know, kind of how the house was put together.
Exactly. And another fun detail, here you can see the window weights of the original window here. So that I always love being able to see kind of this part of the window. This is how it operates, and just the scale of the weight required to make these windows operational. So we're so glad that these aren't missing. They're kind of a hot commodity now if you're restoring houses. So I think it's really great that we're able to restore the windows with their original mechanisms. So you can see them working over here. Love windows. And one thing to point out too is I'm fairly confident that these are the original wood floors. They're going to look amazing when they're refinished, that's for sure. You can see all of the life and love that has been given to them thus far with kind of the scuffs and the scratches you see here, but they look really stunning. So, as Shannon mentioned earlier, there's a lot of stuff in the Kelso house, but a lot of that stuff is also very good. Here you can see a bunch of original wood windows that were saved at some point that we're really eager to put back into openings where we need them, as well as one of the many chimneys that is on this house. You can see it was clad and stucco on the interior, but you can see the beautiful kind of buff brick that goes through the roof. So I think anyone watching that is a fan of historic buildings would be like, wow, that's what a historic building looks like underneath the walls. So we hope that you're as excited as we are.
You can even see the shingles on the roof, because you know, historically it had a shingle, like a wood shingle roof, and so that's also kind of cool. Of course, there are lots of layers of other types of roofing above that, but from inside you can see them. Okay, well, so Steph and I brought you back out to the second floor porch because, frankly, because we're so excited for the opportunity to be out here on the second floor porch. It's so awesome. Just imagine when there's railings in place and there's no more face masks and we can actually have our Pop on the Rocks cocktail on the second floor porch. That will be amazing.
Yes, yes. Save the date. We'll actually have it dark and stormy. Is that what we're having tonight? Yes, that's what we're having tonight. Out on this porch. We can't wait to host you guys here. Thanks!
Yeah. That was not a very skilled ending from Steph and I, but okay, so in the interest of time, we were going to, there's some drone footage that Guido did, and Steph will turn down the audio, the music, so that maybe. But while the drone footage is playing, we'll just we'll go ahead and begin some Q&A. It is pretty cool to see the perspective of the neighborhood and the house. you'll see some skylights that are going to be going away, and you see the condition of the roof. It definitely needs some attention. But I hope you all have enjoyed our tour of the Kelso House, and we would love to just launch into discussion if anybody has questions. I know there's been a few questions in the chat that I think we've answered. There was a question about how the house will be used, and we do have some requirements based on the zoning that limit it to O1 uses, which is a zoning category in San Antonio, and it's kind of essentially light office. Like, it'll likely be a law firm or, you know, something along those lines. And then I don't remember what the other kind of questions were. I know Heather. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, I can help you. We had a question specifically about the funding sources that we're using, which I think is a really interesting conversation. And Steph sort of alluded to it during the tour, that this is a true community effort. But I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about the different places that have been generous enough, you know, both individuals and organizations, to help us with this project.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously we had the initial donation of the house, which is huge. And then we have been since 2012 hosting our prom events. I hope many of you have been, and if you haven't, mark your calendars. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be able to have prom again in October, 4th Thursday of October of 2021. But that event is where a lot of our proceeds are raised. We raise around $40,000 to $50,000 a year from prom, and the last several years of prom, 100% of the proceeds have gone into the Kelso House rehabilitation. We also have different grants. We have received 2 grants from the Conservation Society of San Antonio to support the porch restoration and the roof. And then, you know, there's the other small grant that we are receiving this year to help with the restoration of the shingle siding. So a lot of different, and then of course, just like individuals. We have text to donate open all the time. We're always taking donations. Tonight we raised $1,300 or somewhere around that. We mentioned we have sponsorship opportunities that are outlined. The second floor porch has been sponsored, as I mentioned, by the Van Steenbergs and Tim Cohn, but we have lots of other sponsorship opportunities that are available if anyone is interested. And it's really just kind of, you know, we have Lake Flato, who's donating their amazing expertise to the project. We have the students at our local students at UTSA that are doing projects. We utilize, you know, volunteers. I saw someone in the chat who had participated in one of the window workshops and actually helped restore one of the windows, which is awesome. So there's lots of ways to get involved in helping with the restoration. And ultimately, the Kelso House and our other new learning lab at a early 20th century Tudor style gas station on Nogalitos will be able to train a lot of people in kind of preservation trades. Oh, and yes, Jenny, I just saw Jenny put in the chat, but please join us. Feel free to turn your cameras back on and go back if you want to the grid layout so you can see everybody at once. I personally like that. Or you can leave it on stage and you'll see the person who's talking.
I have a question or two. Roof materials, and then on the side of the house where you showed that one kind of long beam on the side of the house that had been replaced that kind of looked like cedar. Do you know what materials you're using for some of the exterior repairs? What type of wood?
That's a good question. So the roof material is going to go back. It's going to be a shingle roof. It'll be a normal kind of shingle, and the wood on the part that was newly the part that was replicated by the UTSA students. Is that what you're talking about?
it was that kind of support piece along the bottom, and you didn't quite know what the name of it, what it was called.
On the outside.
Looked like a 6x6 or something.
Yeah, that it's kind of a trim piece that goes all the way around, like, like where basically at the floor level. I don't know,
Yeah.
Tim Cohn, are you still on? What kind of wood is it? I would imagine that Tim knows the answer, but
Okay, I'll ask him next time.
yeah. And I just saw, Ricky Kushner just put in the chat about Nogalitos. Yes, Ricky, we're so excited. The gas station survey finally paid off. So thanks so much for your work on that.
Yay. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions? We do have, I think we mentioned earlier and we mentioned in the chat that we do have, I think maybe Heather and Kate from Lake Flato with us. If anybody has additional questions about that net zero certification. How many other buildings we have? We have just the two. So we actually own, the Kelso House was actually donated to the foundation. The Nogalitos, we actually have a lease agreement with the owner of that property. They own a larger amount of property, and right there on San Pedro Creek, it's going to be spectacular. And it's a really cute little Tudor style gas station. And the owner actually originally intended to demolish it, unfortunately. And so Vince Michael at the Conservation Society really kind of made it a priority of his personally. And so the Conservation Society really helped kind of negotiate with the owner. And Steve Indo actually helped as their real estate person to kind of come up with a lease agreement. And then just because of COVID and lots of things that have changed the capacity of organizations, we ended up working with the Conservation Society for PoP to take over as the person who actually holds the lease, or the organization that holds the lease. But we actually are receiving a grant from the Conservation Society that will fund the repair of the roof, and then some other kind of changes to the exterior envelope just to make sure that it's secure and in compliance with the city's vacant building ordinance. And we will be doing a lot of that through both just kind of basic volunteer cleanup days, but then also like actual training days. And I'm so very glad that Tim Cohn has assured all of us that it's good wood. That's what it is. It's good. Whatever it is, it's going to be good wood.
So I do want to mention again that we do have someone on the line right now. You can see if you have the tile view, Don Ritchie has the original owners of the Kelso House on his screen. So Don, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you're able to chime in and say a little bit about, there you are, about who you are and anything you want to share.
Oh, your audio. I think you're on mute still. Can one of the hosts unmute them?
I sent the request. Yeah. They have to accept it.
Dawn, if you can accept the request to unmute, we'll be able to hear you. Can you see it on your screen?
Yay!
Are we there? Hey. Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
This is Joyce Kelso Lee, and she grew up in this house. Right there.
Right here.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, good. We can't wait for you to come and visit the house with us.
I would love to.
We want to hear all about it.
You apparently went in and out of her room on the second floor several times tonight.
Aw.
So she was very excited.
Mine was right above the entrance, and my porch was screened in, and then my room was right behind there, and you went through it.
Oh, that's so great.
Did you happen to leave a treasure chest anywhere in the house?
Do you have a treasure chest anywhere in the house that they can find?
No, I'm afraid not. I'm sorry about that.
And what about LaFonda?
Oh, they mentioned LaFon and
La Fonda was built for my mother and father after they were married.
Wow. And your brother was born there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Do you have a favorite memory of growing up of living in the house?
Do I have a favorite what?
Memory.
Not really a favorite. Christmas I loved. We always had a 13-foot Christmas tree. It was a beautiful time. But I was very happy there all the time I was there.
Was the Christmas tree in the front room?
No, a Christmas tree in the living room by one of the fireplaces.
Wow.
Do you have interior photos?
I have some I'll have to look up.
We will look and make sure that you all get them.
Oh, we would love that.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Joyce.
I enjoyed it thoroughly, and thank you.
Okay.
We can't wait to show off what we do to it for you. Hopefully we'll make you proud. I'm enjoying this Dark and Stormy. I never knew that I liked them, but it's pretty good. I actually made a second for Hugh and me during the video. I got tired of listening to myself. I didn't need to watch myself talk anymore.
They grow on you.
Yeah.
That's one I had was in a little bar in Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
Bartender said, "Have you ever heard of it? Want to try it?" Sure. I've been drinking them ever since. That was over 20 years ago.
Isn't it nice that you can drive yourself to drink?
That's so true.
Okay, well, we want to turn it briefly over to Derek, who is one of our PoP Planning Committee members. He has a special message for all of you. We can't let y'all all go without Derek's classic pitch.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? Yeah, so I mean, everybody's here, to have a couple drinks, and then of course to see the Kelso House. But we would be remiss if we missed an organizing opportunity here and asked everybody if they could donate a little money to the Power of Preservation. There's a link going into the chat right now for a website that you can click on. You can click on that link, and then it should bring up a nice photo of the Kelso House. And then you can also change the donation amount that you're looking for in there. I mean, you can go as low as 50, as high as 100,000. I mean, we're really asking for whatever you got is helpful. In all seriousness, like $5 goes a long way. I know that multiple people making small donations can get us where we want to go, and ultimately is better for us because we know that the more people who give us $2, $3, $5, the more community buy-in we're ultimately getting to revive this old home. And I mean, we've seen tonight the power of memories in these. At one case was a home. For us, it will very likely be a light office building. But memories can still be made in office buildings. It doesn't just have to be in somebody's home. We can put a Christmas tree in an office building. It's fine. We'll make it happen, right? So please, if you've got a couple extra dollars, feel free to donate using that link. You can also, on your cell phone, if you've got one nearby, you can text Kelso. That is KELSO. Just text Kelso to 44321, and then it'll bring up a dialogue of some kind asking you, you got Apple Pay or whatever. Throw us a few dollars. We'd really appreciate it. We've got a goal of $100,000, and once we get there, we'll try to have as many people as possible come by, and we'll show it off to you. And also, I'll make a little plug here as a person who used to live in a net zero home in Indiana. It is a great. My electricity bill famously was $15. So we're really able to sort of cut overhead for future businesses who move into this office building too. So your $5 is not just helping us renovate, but potentially helping a small business owner further on down the road. So if you've got it, please pitch it in.
Yes, thank you, Derek. That was very well said. I was just going to add before we go that, as I mentioned, we're doing this every other month. So April will be here before we know it, and Fiesta is postponed yet again. So your April social calendar can have at least one thing on it with Pop on the Rocks on, I believe it'll be Tuesday, April the 6th. Is that, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the plan. It's the first Tuesday of every other month. Oh, Drew and Tim would like to donate a Christmas tree in honor of the Kelso of Joyce. That's so awesome. So we have a Christmas tree. Joyce inspired it. We should set it up and keep it up all year. Everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. Okay, well, everyone, if Jenny, Steph, are we at our end? I think we are.
Yeah, Jenny's computer crashed in like the perfect time. That's a joke. So I think we're good to wrap it up. I am just so grateful, we all are, for all of the comments that came in, for everyone that registered, everyone that donated. We hope you enjoyed your cocktail kit if you got one. You may have seen me or Rachel come up on your porch earlier today. So thank you for placing that order. And we're so excited to see you guys back here in April. We cannot thank you enough. So one last time, raise a glass to the Kelso House and to PoP.
To the power of preservation.
To the power of preservation.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
I loved it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
It was so good to see you, Sarah. Bye. Because a lot of my stuff. Thank you guys. I think it went well. Thanks for all your work on this. Derek and Steph and and Rachel and Jenny. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks for having us. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.